Hi, welcome to Tribe Builders. I'm Tanya Rooney, and I'm super excited about my guest today. Her name is Allie Bjerk, and she is the Tiny Offer Queen. Hi, Allie.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Tanya. We're going
Yeah.
to have to talk about what that means.
Yes,
I'm
we
sure we'll get
totally
into
will.
it. Yep.
There's going to be a couple of things you probably explain.
Yeah.
So for the people that are listening, I met Allie through a friend. Like she ended up becoming in my network because I was working on some marketing things, just trying to figure some stuff out. And she happens to be friends with one of my real estate friends. His name is Bill Allen. And they were talking about some business things. And then he kind of introed me. And now like she's totally in my life. Like I've gotten some coaching from her. Like she does some really, really cool marketing things that people need to know about. She's grown a community of her own. And then she's also part of a few communities. So yeah, I'm super excited to talk to her today about the communities she built and just what surrounds that. So to start out with, could you tell us about the company that you built?
Yeah. So I've been in business. I've been self-employed probably since 2012. I started out doing all sorts of different freelancing type stuff. I was a graphic designer, website builder, copywriter. Ended up finding this weird online niche of people who were coaching and creators and, were experts and creating content about stuff. And I had no idea this world even existed of people who knew stuff and then created digital products that they sold about them, like courses. And, they had YouTube channels and books. And they were like the people who were creating the things that you see at Barnes and Noble. And I was like, wow, these are real humans that actually create this stuff. This is so cool. So I started getting into that world as a behind the scenes person. I was, building their landing pages and their sales funnels and running their ads for them. And people in this online world do these big launches. So I was a launch manager for a time for people's digital product course launches and stuff like that. But I always had this little inkling that was like, you should build your own products. Like maybe you could teach people stuff and maybe you could create a product and build a personal brand. But I was like terrified of being on camera. I was so uncomfortable being in the front person of a business. Like I was much more content and comfortable and safe behind the scenes, but something just kept pushing me to like get out in front and start my own stuff or have my own thing, I guess. So I tried a few times, and this was in 2019, launched a couple of small products. It didn't really go anywhere, but I ended up launching a $27 social media calendar that was 365 ideas for a live stream to do every single day. And it was the third iteration of the same type of sales funnel that I'd created. It was like a low ticket sales funnel. And it ended up generating $10,000 in the first 2 weeks, which for me was like monopoly money. But then it went on to do 100K in the first month and a half. And then within the first 6 months, I think it did like $700,000 in sales. And I was mind blown because, that was like monopoly money to me. I'd only been a freelancer. I'd only, maybe maxed out at like, I think $15,000 in a month was my very best month of sales ever up to this point after being in business. At that point, it had been, probably 6 or 7 years of trying to do my own thing. So from there, I was like, oh, this is why people like digital products. You can create them once and resell them, and there's no ceiling on how much you can sell. It's not tied to your time. So then people watched what I had done with this $27 product, and they were like, teach me how you did that. Like, how did you sell this low ticket product at such a high volume? How are you upselling people into, then all of a sudden I had a group coaching program, and I was like thrust into the position of being a thought leader and a coach and like all this stuff that I didn't think I was ready to do. All of a sudden I was front and center of my very own personal brand, and people were asking how I had created this whole method and this type of funnel. And I ended up trademarking it as the Tiny Offer funnel, which has again become like a runaway train of its own. So I've got a group coaching program teaching tiny offers. I speak on tiny offers and ad strategies. And it was really like the catalyst that pushed me made all my wildest dreams come true in a way that I had no idea I was even capable of accomplishing.
I think that is so amazing. So you were consulting just here and there, freelance. So,
Yeah.
making, 2 to 10 grand a month, depending, but probably like regularly a few thousand. And
Working
then
my
you
tail
went
off
up
for
to,
it.
and you went up to like almost 100,000 a month.
Yeah. Yep. Like talk about growth, like talk about a mindset effery. Like it was, I don't know if you swear in the podcast. I'm assuming you.
I do.
No idea. Okay.
Yes, I do.
So it was like
Sorry.
total mind blowing. It's like I previously had to work really, really hard to even make 10K a month. And at that point I had like 10 different clients and it was all this, I was doing all the work and I was a service provider. So it was like I had 10 bosses instead of one boss like I had when I did have a day job. So to make money that fast, that easy, I was like, this is illegal. Like there's something I'm doing something wrong. This isn't how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to be really hard to make money. How is this possible? And of course, it's not always been easy straight, but it's been a similar trajectory. It's a hard word to say. Since about 2019.
I want to point out, so you're an average human, right? Like you didn't grow up with money. You're not like, some fancy model turned something. You're like, I mean, there is nothing in a box that like, I feel like a lot of people, like including me, like we see somebody and we make up a whole entire story about that person, like how the hell they just did that. So you don't have any of those. Like I don't have dad's money. I have nothing. Like I literally started with a small bank account and now I have a bigger bank account. Yeah. Like nothing fancy, right? Like you stumbled upon this shit.
Yep. Cliche Northern Minnesota mother of three would be my tagline that I could drop. It's like it wasn't handed to me by any means. And I am not different than any other human.
I think sometimes I need to like point out stuff, even to myself, but otherwise to other people to be like, these are just average people. Like we're all average people. It's just whether or not we want to put in a little bit more than average,
Yeah.
Like to it, Yeah, put in the reps. That's a great idea. Okay. So you made a community while you were doing this. So it was accidental.
Yes.
Or was it intended?
Reluctantly, even. It was like,
really?
I mean, it's like, I think in the back of my mind, it's something I always wanted, but I had a ton of fear around it. I kind of, Russell Brunson talks about like the reluctant hero. Like, I feel like that wasn't an act for me. Like I wasn't reluctant just to get people to join my tribe. I actually didn't really know that I wanted one. I think I was really uncomfortable by the idea of being the one in the Zoom room with 50 people staring at me for the answers. Like I wasn't ready for that at all.
Yeah, but okay, and then real quick, you have a community behind you. Like you've obviously built a community, but I feel like there's two different communities here. So can you tell me about the community behind you that now kind of helps you, or that maybe you meet in a room with once a month, once every few months to like get through some of this businessy stuff that you were not prepared for?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've been in a number of different rooms, if you will. Like I joined a mastermind with Julie Chanel, who had a mastermind called Digital Insiders. That was really the first investment that I ever made in my business. And from there, I went into Inner Circle with Russell Brunson and then his higher tiers of his mastermind. And not in those groups anymore, but now I'm in a peer mastermind it's like an invite only one that's run just by people who have online businesses and just want to share knowledge. There's no like leader of the community. So that one's been really cool to be part of too. They've all had their perks and their differences. So it's been interesting to observe how different they can be.
And do you feel like, so have you been part of free ones and paid ones?
Yes.
Do you have any opinion about the differences?
I think it depends. Well, I mean, honestly, like one of my very first, I guess, masterminds, I don't know that we called it that, but it was me and like 3 other women. I guess we were like, business besties, but we'd have a call a couple times a month where we'd get on Zoom and we'd just ask each other for advice. We would get together in person a couple times a year. And that was kind of the beginning of realizing the power of having a community and having different brains put together. I can't remember if it was Napoleon Hill who said it, where if you put 2 minds together, it becomes a third mind. And then the third mind is where a lot of the magic happens. It's like the point of a mastermind. I think it was Napoleon Hill, but you might have to search that.
You could check it out.
Yeah, I don't know if that's accurate. But like even when I joined Julie's mastermind, I think it was like $800 a month, or it was like an insane amount of money to me at the time to join this room. And I was trying to explain to my husband like why I should join this community and why it was important to me. And it's really hard to verify, like, yeah, you're going to spend $800 to like talk to people, like go talk to people for free. Like, why do you need to be in this expensive community? But it was the fact that everyone in the room, valued their businesses or valued their investing in themselves and learning and being in a room like that, that it attracted a higher caliber of business owner, or I guess more like peer based. And I remember at one of the first meetings, I was sitting by a guy, and I was like, like this is like high school and college Allie coming out, where I was like in the back of the room, like making jokes next to the person sitting next to the person, can't talk. And we were just like, being the slackers in the back of the room. And I went up and I presented my business, and I was like, yeah, I don't really know what I want to do. Like, I'm kind of building funnels and stuff. But then he went up to the front of the room and he was like, yeah, we're currently doing $1 million a month in my Amazon FBA business. And I was like, what? Like, we were just sitting in the back of the room, like joking around the entire morning. Like, what do you mean you're $1 million a month business owner? You're normal. Like, how is this possible that you're not just some stuffy, like snotty guy who's not fun? It totally shifted my mindset to I think I had a totally different money belief or something. To have it normalized that quickly to me was like, what just happened? So there was that. And then seeing people stand up in front of the room who, again, seemed normal. And they're like, yeah, I just published my book and we sold 1 million copies and blah, blah, blah. And it was the craziest thing to me to like be in a room and be the dumbest person in the room and like not even realize it until like a couple days in. But I learned a lot.
I love that. I love that so much, because you don't ever know. Like, I feel like some of the richest people I know wear overalls. Like, I know that's a really weird thing to say, but people in the Midwest totally know. Like, some of the farmers, you'll never know how much they have anyways, but you can't just see them and be like, oh, that person, look, they, we have this perception, we make it up in our mind that people look poor. And it's funny because a guy with a wind jacket and maybe still, sporting Rider jeans and dad shoes, like that guy, like I literally have a guy in my head who I know owns a bank and has a lot of money. And like, these are all just normal people. So I really love that, like, that was slapped at your face. Like, oh yeah, this guy that was screwing around, he's just normal too. We're all normal.
Yeah. So it's like, if he can, why can't I? Like, I thought we were equals. And then all of a sudden he was like up here and I was down here. I'm like, but wait a minute, why can't I? Why couldn't I do that? Why couldn't I build that?
Yes, actually, this is the perfect segue. I'm so excited that you said it that way, because we're going into self-limiting beliefs. I feel like a lot of people, like maybe that are not even starting a business yet or want to, but they have so many self-limiting beliefs. It sounds like you've kind of knocked out some big goals, like you've reached some things. So tell me though, do you still have self-limiting beliefs? What kinds are they? How do you combat them? Like, just talk about like what you got going on around that.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to think, like, which one do I talk about first? I mean, there's so many. But I feel like for me, and the way I've heard it explained by other people, is that our beliefs are like onion layers. It's like we think we're done with something and then it comes back in a different way. Or like we think we're over this fear of camera, and then you get asked to speak on camera in front of, like a much bigger audience than you have before, and all of a sudden it comes back in a different way. So I think I've had a whole slew of lots of limiting beliefs, and I think, sometimes I let them knock me down or get me off track, or it's like it shows up in different ways, whether it's shiny object syndrome or some type of sabotage. But I think I can identify it a lot faster than I used to be able to. And I can be like, oh, I'm doing that thing again that I've done before, that I'm making up excuses, or I'm, like sabotaging in a certain way, or I'm avoiding a conversation that needs to be had, avoiding a decision that needs to be made. So I think before I didn't even realize they were limiting beliefs. I thought I genuinely believed the thoughts in my head. I think like in the beginning is the best way to explain it. I didn't realize that it was a pattern, or that it was, just like a cycle or some subconscious story that was coming out. I would believe it, of like, oh, I'm not good on camera. Like I shouldn't get on this. It was like, it wasn't Zoom, Skype. I shouldn't get on this Skype call because I'm awkward and I'm uncomfortable on camera. Like, I'm just going to say no to it instead of trying to find the way around it or learn the new skill or get over the fear. Where now I'm just like, oh, there's something I don't want to do. I need to figure out why I don't want to do it and then figure out how to make myself do it so that I can, get to the end result that happens on the other side of the thing that I don't want to do.
So okay, so now you can recognize it, but how did you dig out? Did somebody point it out? Did you actually pay for a coach, a therapist? Like, how did that happen?
All of the above. I mean, I've had like when I was first starting, well, back to my original group of 4 women that I was, with my biz besties. One of them was a mindset coach. So she coached me for free. So we would do a call and she was just practicing, but man, I was a good practice case for her because I had a lot of stuff, and she'd point things out to me and I'd be like, well, that's not true. Or I guess I've never thought about it that way. And I remember telling her one time, like, oh, mindset is just learning a different way to think about things. And she's like, yeah, that's what we do as mindset coaches. Like, we show you an alternative route to your beliefs and how to just come at it from a different angle where it's not so scary or so impossible, or, it's more like growth mindset as opposed to fixed mindset. I think I grew up in a really fixed mindset environment. And that was just how I saw the world of like, you can either do things or you can't do things. You're either born into it or you are born with it. And I think I realized as I started my business, probably that growth mindset is, such a more powerful way to see life.
Yes,
anything's possible.
Awesome. Yeah, well, and honestly, here in a way, it's like so sometimes cliche to talk about it, but you're literally a fucking example. I mean, you're just like, wait a minute, I can make this much, and then you're sitting next to these guys who make $1 million a month, and I don't know if you've hit $1 million a month ever in any of your businesses, but like seeing how possible it is, though. But I mean, right now, I think of like $800,000 a month. I'm like, what fucking people like make that? I could go pay for any pair of pants I want. Like, it's this really, I have a really weird thing about, oh my God, when I'm super mega rich, I'm going to have a new toothbrush every week and I'm going to get to spend any amount of money on one pair of jeans. Like, as in I could buy $100 pair of jeans and not feel weird about it.
Yeah. I love
and
that
so you think of people making $100,000 or $500,000 a month or $1 million a month, and they're just normal people too. They might have better processes and delegation right now, but it's not like you can't learn that shit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think realizing like it's all just a business solution to be figured out. If you're at 50K and you want to be at 100, like what do you need to do to get to 100? What problems do you need to solve? Like, how do you I think Alex Hormozy calls it the game of business. And he's like, if you're not where you want to be, you're just not good enough at the game yet. I'm like, oh, I guess that's a really simplistic way of saying it, but you're probably right, I guess.
I hate it when somebody can break it down like that and you're like, damn it, you're right. That's so awesome. Well, so could you kind of switch over to what is one of your biggest wins you feel like you've had? It could be personal, it could be business. I don't care. What's a big, huge win?
I think a recent one, I mean, so the story is like, yes, I had this breakaway success going into 2019 and through 2020, but like I hit a shitstorm of self-belief in 2020, I had my biggest month of sales, which was, I think it was about $380,000 in sales, hired a crap ton of people. I had an $80,000 a month payroll. I all of a sudden I have 3 kids. So all of a sudden COVID hits. I'm like a homeschooling mom. My nanny quits via text message, says I'm not coming back. Like no warning whatsoever. I've got all these clients who just paid me a high ticket dollar amount to join my program that are losing their jobs and can't pay anymore. And like, I just staffed up to be able to support them. So it was like all of these things, plus not to mention, like I am at my peak of what I think I'm capable of already. Because I've never managed humans before. I've never had, I think there were like 250 people in my coaching program. I just hadn't had the volume of responsibilities. And I think my nervous system was not primed for that whatsoever. So I freaked out. I stopped. I was running a weekly webinar up until that point where I sold my program. It was live. We ran ads to it. I'd show up, I'd pitch the program. We'd have sales calls, people join the program. It was like this whole machine. And I just full stopped the machine. Like I stopped running the webinars, made some excuse of like, like people don't want to come to webinars during COVID. Like people don't have money. They're going to stop buying. Like talk about limiting belief stories. Like all of those started coming out, and slowly, like from 2021, after payment plans started winding down, like my monthly revenue just started shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And like the stories that I told myself about that, of like, my 15 minutes are up, like nobody cares about me anymore, tiny offers are dead, like all of these just ridiculous stories, right? Like all sabotage. And I tried to shift business models and like told myself, I just want a really lean team. I only want to make, like X amount per month. I want to have a membership where I don't have to show up and do anything. So I started building that business probably in 2023, like throughout 2023. And I hated it. I was like back to service provider, freelancer. Like I was back to doing all the things myself after I had previously learned how to delegate them. So I was like, what the heck am I doing? Like I just stepped back into 2018, Allie. This is silly. So I think my biggest win has been at the beginning of 2024. I was like, I'm going to become a student again. I'm going to learn how to be the best manager. I'm going to learn how to hire. I'm going to learn how to build the group coaching business or some iteration of a big monthly revenue business again, but the way I want. Instead, before, when I did it in like 2020, I had a bunch of consultants who were like, you should do it this way. And they were all like telling me to hire really, like I was very top heavy business. I had way too many people on my team. That's a whole other story. So now I'm running really lean. Like we're using a lot of AI to help us be efficient, and like everything's automated. So I have a small but mighty team, and we're crushing it right now. Like things are going so well. I've got a salesperson who is the funniest person I've ever met. Like we will just sit on Zoom and laugh for probably more than we should, but it's like, it's making my business fun again. And for a long time, probably from like 2021 to 2023, it just wasn't fun. Like it was just a grind, and I wasn't really enjoying the marketing of it. And I wasn't excited about I'm still talking about tiny offers, but I was like talking about them in a different way. So I think the biggest win has been just maybe my mindset shift, but my motivation in the last 6 months or so, and the financial successes that we're seeing because of that shift.
That's awesome. It sounds like you're more aligned. Like that's
Yeah.
that's like the whole thing is how can we be aligned with what we're doing so it doesn't feel as heavy, because business is still like business, but
Yeah.
it's fun to like hang out and like be able to actually like your team and just things like that. So that sounds fucking awesome. Actually.
Yeah, it's been great.
So what do you think your superpower is?
Mind reading. I don't know, that sounds really weird, but like, I think that's why I'm good at marketing, is because I think I learned how to read the room at a really young age. Like I don't know, people have called it being empathic, or like being able to walk into the room and feel the energy of the room. And I think I didn't really realize that was my skill set, but I can understand and read people pretty quickly. But I think that's helped me be a really good marketer, because I can put myself into their client's shoes, and I can say, oh, you want to create an offer about Pilates for golfers. Okay, well, golfers, I don't golf, I don't do Pilates, but like I can put myself in their shoes and say, well, if I'm golfing, I'm probably feeling like this afterwards. And maybe I want to impress like I know enough about the psychology of most people in most niches that I can like transport into their ideal client shoes pretty quick. So if there were a superpower, I think that would be it.
That's awesome. And you've built a business around it. I mean, truly, like, right? You're like tiny offer stuff is like helping people with these tiny offers, which means like you help them out with that specific thing. That's really cool. I'm really happy that like you're actually like working in the spot where you feel it's your zone of genius.
Yeah.
Not everybody does that.
Right. I mean, there's definitely aspects of what I do that are not my zone of genius, like project management and detail stuff, just some of the things that you have to do to run a business and like be the CEO or the founder. So there's definitely been things that I've had to adapt into, but yeah, for the most part, I get to stay in that zone.
I think that's beautiful. So, Let me think. So how did you help, like, did your community help you get to where you are? Can you talk about some ways that maybe your community has? Because it sounds like you've been a part of a couple of masterminds and you've had a lot of iterations, because I think business owners do. You've been in business
Hmm.
a long time. So
Yeah.
what are some ways they've kind of helped you get to this spot?
They've definitely, first and foremost is just normalizing success for me. Cause I think when we grow up, we hear a lot of stories about like, oh, rich people are jerks or, money is evil. Like we have beliefs that aren't even ours and we don't really realize that. Like we've just adapted into them from
Mhm.
childhood. So I think being front and center to other people's beliefs and hearing other people's stories, like even the behind the scenes of like how people got to that point. And I'm such a I'm such a nerd for those stories. I've got a friend locally that owns a pet food company, and they're doing, I think they did like 25 million last year in a pet food industry. And I was hearing their story, and it was like their parents' farm, and the farm almost went bankrupt, and the kid was like, I have an idea, like maybe we could do this with the farm. And they went from almost being bankrupt as farmers to creating this dog food company that's now $25 million a year, and does that in business. And I was like, I just love those stories of triumph and like the trial and the error and the ideas and the shifting. So I think getting to be in rooms of people who normalize some of the ups and the downs and the like, oh, I've been through that too, or like, my profit margin wasn't as good as I wanted it to be either, because people don't really show that behind the scenes stuff in the highlight reel that you see on like social media or in their marketing. But when you get in those rooms that are a little safer, a little more protected, people will be more vulnerable and share the hard stuff, and you're like, oh, it's not just me. Like I don't just suck at business. Like this is the thing, like hiring is hard, profit margins, you have to watch those because things happen. So I think normalizing the challenges is a really good reason to get in those communities too.
I love that, because I think that's probably that is the kind of human you just explained. Those are the people that I talk to the most. Is like
Mm-hmm.
they, tell you a problem, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I go through that too. Like, because I'm a business owner, like we have the same stuff. And then they're just watching their eyes, if you're on a camera, if you're in person, or you hear them gasp, and you're just like, yeah, that's the reason I hang out with other business owners, is because they understand, if you can't make payroll, if
Mm-hmm.
are having trouble with marketing, if you just can't get the algorithm just right, or hiring. Oh my God. Sometimes hiring can be a black hole, and everybody
Yeah.
thinks, oh my God, it's just me. Nobody wants to work for me, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
like, you start talking to other people and you find what they're doing and you use their best practice. And oh, it's so amazing to be around other business owners.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the other side of that, I mean, I've been in some very ego-based rooms too that they didn't share vulnerably, and I had to leave because it was I was more open than anybody else. I mean, I think that's a superpower too, maybe, is that I like maybe share a little more vulnerably than I should. But I think that's what's helped create my community, is like that people appreciate that side. But I hate being in rooms where they're like, oh, well, that sucks for you. Like, I don't have that problem. Even though they do, they're just not admitting it. Like their ego won't let them admit it. So I think being careful about the rooms that you're in. Like I joined this group program on a whim last summer, and we had to share a win. And my win was that I traveled this summer. I kind of took the summer off and I hung out with my kids and we went on a big road trip. And the leader of the community was like, well, I don't think that's a win. I think that's a slacker response. Like you should have been working a lot harder this summer. And I was like, oh fuck, like this is the wrong
Wrong
room.
room,
Like,
wrong room, wrong
I
room,
should have,
eject.
yeah, like that was my big win, is like, my automations worked for me. I took the summer off a little bit. Like status quo, like kept things running, obviously, but
Yeah.
it was a win. And he was like, that's not a win. Like you should be working harder. You should be hustling harder. I was like, dang it. Like that is
Yeah.
not my room. So I
Again,
think,
eject,
yeah,
eject.
yeah, I
I'm out.
know. Like, can I get a refund? But then I didn't. I just stayed, and it was interesting. I learned a lot from that group, but maybe more of like what I don't want.
Don't want.
Which sometimes you learn
Important.
not to.
Yeah, important. I think every time I spend money on something, I learn something. Like even if it's a big amount and then I'm like, "Oh shit, that didn't work out well."
Yeah.
I try to reflect on it and be like, "Actually, this is the reason it was great. Like I got this friend, or I learned what I don't want." And that is
Hmm.
worth money every single time it happens. Even if you
Yeah.
get knocked on your ass, you're just like, "Well, I know to avoid that now. That's great experience."
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We have a sheet of red flags for client calls or client acquisition. And one of the red flags is ownership. And if they don't take ownership of joining a program, like if somebody comes to a sales call and they're like, I paid for this program and it was terrible, I joined this program and it was terrible, like all these coaches suck, like if they
Red
I've
flag.
never, yeah, I've never said that ever about any program that I've joined. I always learned something. And I even if it wasn't, what I projected it to be or what I thought it was going to be, I still walked away with huge wins and aha moments, and it was worth the investment. Like I would never say that on a call. So it just shows us like we're going to be next on the list no matter
Yep,
what
they're
you
gonna
do.
hate you too. Don't worry.
Basically.
Yes,
Yep.
I love that you have that as a list because seriously, I don't think enough people fire clients. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you should be fire happy and, like you can't fit, but people like take the energy that, like, or you take on their energy. And if they bring
Hmm.
that every single call, every coaching session, whatever, like, one bad egg is gonna like spoil the whole entire thing. So they
Yeah.
could screw with the rest of your clients as well.
Yeah. It's so important.
Ah, that's so cool. So what is one thing that you enjoyed seeing happen in your community that just like it wasn't intentional, but it just like happened? Like I feel like magic in communities, we aren't in charge of the magic. Like we might build the container, but some of the stuff that happens is just so fucking cool. Can you tell me some of the cool things that you've noticed about your community?
I think the coolest thing that comes to mind, specifically because I work with digital product creators and experts who they're trying. Some of them are just getting started. They're trying to build a thing, and they're either not having success. But what I see happen to many people is they get stuck in this perfectionist loop of never actually launching, never actually telling people about their thing. Like before we started recording, we were talking about accountability and just like doing the thing. But like some people they don't have it. They it's hard for them to pull the trigger and publish something officially. So I think the coolest thing in the community is when somebody is like, it wasn't perfect and I probably could have worked on it for another 6 months, but I just published it and I made a sale and I did the thing and I saw a reward from doing the thing. I think when people have that aha moment of like, oh, like someone just like me just hit publish and saw some success from finishing it, or at least some version of it and getting it out into the wild where real people and real humans can see what they're creating. I think that's like the funnest thing for me to witness.
That's so awesome. And then I'm assuming there's a domino effect. Like, oh, if this person can do that, I can do that. And it
Mhm.
just like you build momentum together, which is way cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Awesome.
love it.
So what kind of people do you have coming into your community? Like if you were looking for a person or something, what kind of person do you look for to join your community?
It's so funny. I've been really thinking about this a lot because when I first started showing up online, I was a lot more reserved. Probably, I don't think I was my full self online, and I was quieter. I was more humble, and just a little very Midwest, I guess is a nice way to say it. And everybody who joined my programs was like from Minnesota. I'm like, this is the weirdest thing that all the people in my group coaching, like this is back pre tiny offers, but like all the people who were around me were like other Midwest people, and they were also somewhat quiet, and like they also said they had confidence issues, and I was like, what is this? Like, why are all these people coming in and they have all these similar things? And then I would go read my content or I'd go listen to my podcast, and it's like, I'm from Minnesota and like I have a hard time showing up on camera, and then people in my program are from Minnesota and can't show up on camera, and it's like, wow, I'm really reflecting and attracting who I am. And then I got some advice recently about ads that I thought was really interesting, that if you think about the personalities, even just, like the stereotypes of the different coasts, like the California compared to New York, compared to Miami, compared to the Pacific Northwest, and you think about the different personality types. And if you're writing ads, you really have to try to write ads in different voices and different different lengths and different cadences of copy and like different aggressiveness levels. And now I've got people in my group from New York and Miami and California. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it was how I was showing up was who I was attracting into my community. So I think that's really interesting for people to think about. You are going to attract people who are similar to you. And even in, Russell Brunson's community, he's Mormon. He's very openly speaks about his faith. He brings it into a lot of what he does. And when you look at his top level communities, many of the members of his, like inner circle or category kings, like a lot of those people share the same faith as him. So it kind of reiterated my theory that we like to hang out with, like business leaders or founders that are similar to us because we can see our future successes in what we see in them.
That is so interesting. Like I'm now thinking of all the masterminds I've been a part of and why I'm attracted to them or in ways like that. And it's totally true. Like the people you want to hang out with, like we attract
yeah.
like
right.
for like,
yeah. Well, and even like Bill Allen, the friend that we have in common, I mean, he's a military guy and he's got a lot of military members in his community, and Adam, who's in his community, same thing. It's like we like the topics that we want to talk about. We relate to people who have had similar life experiences, who have been through the same things. So it's been interesting. And I used to like judge myself for it. Like, why do I only attract Minnesota people? Like, what's wrong with me? But now from a psychology standpoint, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like, now I get it.
It's so funny because anytime I watch your stuff or just even talking to you right now, I'm like, oh my God, we are just like, I just resonate so much when you talk. And it's because it's very similar. I'm just like, yeah, I think, and of course I'm from Minnesota as well. Yeah. So I'm just like, man, there's so many badasses in Minnesota. Like, of course, Jenna Kutcher comes from Minnesota and Allie Bjerk comes from Minnesota. And if anybody else does, I don't even know who they are. So, but it's so interesting that we do. Like some of the people that resonate with me the most are totally from Minnesately. I just think Minnesota people must be badasses.
Obviously.
Just obviously. There's no other state that has them.
Yeah.
Absolutely not true. That's so cool though. So I guess, what else are you working on these days? So it sounds like, you're doing more tiny offer stuff. Like, what does that look like? Or what's some cool things that are like on deck for you that you would have to be accountable for once you say I'm on my podcast?
Yeah. It's been interesting. What we've been recently building the most is the done for you side of things. Like we've been doing a lot more. I've been using a software called High Level, which makes it way easier to like share funnels and copy funnels. And with all of the AI advances, it's really easy for me to write copy in all sorts of different industries. And just, we can move so much faster on a lot of the done for you stuff, which is why I didn't do it before, is because it seemed like it took so much time to build and get to the finish line. But that's been my newest challenge, is kind of building an agency of sorts. And running lean, but still building an agency. And I had the opportunity to attend a Q&A with Layla Hermosi probably last summer. And I asked her, I was like, what do you think what's your prediction for the coaching industry and like this creator economy? And, what's going to happen in the next 5 years as AI and information is like so easily duplicated. And she said that she thinks there's going to be, like a saturation point. And if she could suggest any business model for me for what I was already doing with like tiny offers and stuff, she said, I would build an agency. I think that's going to be your most, your long-term plan, because everybody always needs somebody to build it for them. And I was like, now I'm back to like the building side, but I think I can bring a different perspective to it now. And some people, now we just have what they call like a value ladder. Our done for you is our top level service, but if somebody still wants to learn it and isn't ready for us to do it for them, they could join a group coaching program, or I have a membership where it's more like come in and get clarity on what you could sell, what you want to build. So I think it's just more streamlining, more like there's something, I read a book called Predictable Success by a guy named Les McKeown, and he said a great business is a boring business. So I think I'm like getting to the point of, just repetition. Like we're just getting better, faster, more streamlined, creating better tools, better systems for our either our coaching clients or our agency clients. So I think there's going to be a lot more of that in the future, which is exciting. My ADHD brain's a little like womp womp, but I think it's good. I just stop the ideas. I'm like, nope, we're not doing that right now. Like, head forward, blinders on. Like, let's proceed.
And just do this thing, and then sometime you'll get to inject some fun into it here and there.
Right. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so wrapping up, I like to ask people, like, what thing are you looking for right now? Because maybe somebody, like, I've had a couple of people actually reach out about other guests saying, like, hey, I am that, or I want that, or I have that and want to offer it. So is there anything you're looking for right now? Like a person, a connection, a product, a service, anything that we could talk about?
That's a really good question. I mean, we're hiring for a couple roles right now. I don't know if that's the answer that you wanted. But, I mean, if they might be filled by the time it's published. But I think, I'm always looking for media buyers and account managers and funnel builders is kind of the foundation of what I'm building right now. So if you know somebody who knows somebody who wants to do that, or people who want to learn about ads and funnels, like the whole strategy is being able to run ads that liquidate themselves because people are buying upfront. So if there's anybody that is spending too much on ads and they want help, I'd be happy to chat with them.
Oh, totally cool. So if any of our listeners are out there, just, reach out to me, reach out to Allie. I would love to connect like that. I mean, I'm such a connector. That's like what I feel in my soul that I love, that it's like, I just thought of two people that I'm going to connect you with just nice. In case, like amazing. I do actually know like a funnel builder that I'm like, hey, maybe she's looking for work. She likes to work from home. So, and I know that your stuff is virtual. So, so it's nice when someone can think of that and be like, yeah, I'm that. And it's kind of magical when shit like that happens. So
I love that.
So if somebody, I do too. So if somebody wants to find you, what's the best way to find you?
I hang out the most on Instagram. I'm in my stories all the time, and I love chatting with people in messages too. So it's just Allie Bjerk is my username. It's ALLIEBJERK. So if somebody listens to this and they thought it was interesting, send me a message and let me know what takeaways you had. I'd love to hear them.
That's awesome. I love that too. And I don't think I have anything else. I'm so excited that you came to hang out with me for 45 minutes, because I love watching you, and I already told you that. But on the internet, I like to watch what you have going. Like, it's always interesting to see what you're up to, and I love that you're just you're relatable, and that's the cool part about like people like you. So thank you for choosing to come and hang out with me for an hour.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was really fun.
Yeah, heck yeah. So okay, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.